I'm Sally Stein, and I've actually known Christina somewhat since the 1990s because she was actually a graduate student at CalArts where my husband taught, and she worked with my husband, Alan Sekula. But I remember going at a time when a bunch of graduating students were showing their final projects, and I thought, oh, this work is really amazing and contributes to what I already thought of as the long trajectory that I studied and wrote about of American documentary photography. And I thought this is really contributing something new, not only because she is a Chicana Latina artist, and she's looking at other places that we don't normally know, including places my husband also did a lot of work around work and workplaces, but he went to these brawny male sites of shipyards, ports, and on ships, etc. The work she was doing with Lavanderia and Manuela Stitched were much more ordinary neighborhood places, and especially around Manuela Stitched and the garment factories that she was looking at. We hardly see them, in part because they try to be so quiet. They don't want to be noticed. They probably don't want to be noticed for fear of raids by ICE, for immigration abuses and deviations, but also in terms of labor laws in general, that they are probably working in sort of devious ways. They're trying to get as much out of these really sort of low-rent places and workshops as possible. Christina, I learned even back then, never wanted to call them sweatshops because she said, well, we don't really know if they're sweatshops. By sweatshops, she meant we don't know if they're working by wages, by the hour, or if they're working by acceptable pieces that they produced. And sweatshops really refers to when people were doing piecework. And at the time thought, well, why doesn't she try to find out more? But these were places that really wanted to be under the radar, and she preferred simply to find out places based on classified ads and going there, and then studying simply the frontal facade of these places. And what is so surprising is, unlike what we think of as big industry, which tries to put on a great facade with some fabulous buzzy name. Most of these go TNT, or I don't recall all the names, San Pedro fashion. San Pedro is not exactly, sorry San Pedro, but it's not exactly the center of fashion. Or there's only one which is called Napa Apparel, which is ridiculous because it's really unprepossessing industrial side street in Los Angeles, and Napa's 400 miles away. I loved that sort of dissonance between, in this case, the completely unremarkable facade and then having a name but not putting it up there because you don't really want to excite much attention. I did think at the time, because I always loved the work, especially of Louis Hine at the beginning of the 20th century, where he made extraordinary portraits of workers inside. He would manage to get inside saying, oh, I'm trying to produce postcards that the owners might want to buy, et cetera. But once inside, he just photographed on the workers, many of whom were underage. They were child workers. He used natural light in extraordinary fashion to make them as distinctive and human and standing out as possible, even dwarfed by these large machines. But here she doesn't go inside, and that puzzled me for a long while. And then my husband, for example, he would go into shipyards and try to make, in some ways, heroic portraits of workers, and she didn't. But in this series, what she did was to do a larger work with a industrially embroidered piece about a woman who might be based on her grandmother, Manuela Stitched, with its own poem there. But here she leaves us outside, and we are left to wonder. And it seemed to me that rather than delivering a surplus of facts so that we can walk away feeling more satisfied that, oh, we know what it's like, and we know what they are like, she both didn't want to cause alarm to workers there, because she really knew something from her family and her grandparents and parents, relatives, about what it's like to be worried about being apprised by immigration authorities. And she simply left us there on the outside. This is as much as you get. And you're not going to know if it's a sweatshop. It should provoke lots of questions about who is working there, how do they get the job, how long do they work there, under what conditions, is it mainly women, and if mainly women, is the overseer, the supervisor, male or female? Are they living here legally, or are they, quote, illegals, undocumented, without papers? And how much do they earn? How much can they expect to take home? And what are their home lives like? We don't get any of this. Hein really tried to develop a great deal of this, and in some ways it's withheld here, and we're essentially left saying, this is all you're going to know from me. Maybe you'll want to find out more from other ways, but look here first at how quiet these facades are, and that they really don't want people coming in from the outside, and you are one of those outsiders. And we're left to wonder and hopefully want to find out more by other ways.